They took her out in these pictures, and then when it was dark, they brought her back. So what was she doing when she went to the alternate location, and why was she allowed to come home? Because if they'd found a bunch of stuff in that house, wouldn't they have kept her? I've got the top FBI person that I always turn to when I want to know what they're doing, because she used to work for the FBI. So that's coming up in just a moment. Also, just when you think you've probably got the pieces of the puzzle to coming out, concrete being torn up in the garage and drywall and carpet being ripped out of the house.
Well, it's really critical, Ashlee, to understanding what they found in there. First of all, if they took those yellow bags, those are typically our larger yellow plastic bags, that tells me there was nothing biodegradable in there. You would never put biodegradable items in plastic bags. We're talking about electronics. Perhaps you replaced the electronics that they would have taken on the October 15th search warrant. Tools, possibly, papers, photos, indicia of that crime. That drywall and that concrete, wow, carpet, anything along those lines, you're looking at possibly something that would have been reminiscent of a biological items that would be in there, such as blood, DNA, hair. Actually, I'm going to tell you, it's unusual. Usually when we serve search warrants, we allow the people to be around in that area and watch. The fact that they actually took her and she agreed to go, to me, is very important. It showed that they believe she would be unsafe to be around while they were doing this work.
Whoa, wait, pull on that thread a little more. What does that mean? Unsafe to be around? You can't put her in the back of a cop car and see her reaction and record it all on camera?
Well, you could, but again, this is somebody that is your star witness as to where Melodee would be. So if you're a good agent, you hopefully are trying to warm up to her, establish some sort of credibility with her, take her to perhaps a hotel or other location where she would be comfortable. And from all accounts, Ashlee, she is not in her right mind. So you definitely don't want somebody like that going off being in a police car for hours.
So do you think they would have told her, we're about to flip your house and carve bits and pieces out of the carpet and the wall and the concrete? Or do you think they would have said, come with us for a chat, and said nothing else? And then she would have come home to see what had happened when she went for that chat.
Her house up, if you will, that they're going to leave no stone unturned. And you really can't. Look in the BTK case. Remember those items that were found?
Generally speaking, you're not talking about criminals who know much about what they're doing, even if they've seen forensic files. I would think if she was planning to do anything with Melodee, and I'm going to talk about Nebraska and why Nebraska is important in a minute, it would have been planned, and more than likely planned on a phone or a laptop. So I'm assuming that's what they're after.
Right. They're looking for those Google searches. They're also looking for maps. They're looking for what she might have planned out in terms of what roads she would have taken. Also, the destination would be important. So they're going to be looking at all of that. There's going to be so many clues if there are electronics there.
Okay, and then the next thing is the rental car. You know, the storage locker was being searched and the rental car was being searched, but I mean, Jennifer, you and I have rented a million cars, right? You drive it into the lineup and they're cleaning it almost before you get out of it. It's pretty hard to get forensic evidence out of a rental car. I know that, you know, with all your FBI background, you know that Nebraska is a hotbed for sex trafficking. There's a whole bunch of reasons why. The crossroads of the interstates allow you to get in and out of that state easily over state lines. The laws are considered by traffickers to be more lax. Lots of big sporting events, which means lots of, you know, people looking for sex and you know, needing a good pool of sex workers. And then a real vulnerable population, a lot of migrants and people who are underrepresented in the law. So, you know, easy targets for sex crimes. This is what I feared when I heard the road trip went to Nebraska. I'm assuming your brain went there too.
It did, but I balanced that with her actions. It seems like she wants to keep complete control of Melodee, right? It seems like in her world, she was fearful that they might take her away. And actually, she might not be that far off base with what was going on. Only she knows, maybe.
Have where people are usually sitting. Here, my thinking only for sex trafficking, selling her daughter, or murder. I mean, this is what we do on this show. These are the worst case scenarios that we work in this every day, so it's not out of the ordinary. What do you make of her tearing up the missing posters? Like, that to me was just bonkers.
Well, first of all, it's in line with what we've heard about her, the bonkers part. And secondarily, to me, that's all about this control. She doesn't want anyone saying anything about her daughter, but her complete and solid control of the narrative and what's happening. And she doesn't want those posters up because she doesn't want anybody helping to find Melodee, like you're doing on your show.
Yeah, but wow, how obvious are you when you're doing that right out in front of all your neighbors, and one just has to peek out the window and see that scene, that went on for like a couple of minutes too. She was collecting and gathering and then jamming them all together and walking them inside. One last question I'm trying to get my head around. How do we know, and how would investigators know, and I got about 30 seconds left, how would they know that she didn't return with Melodee? How do they know she didn't drop Melodee off at the house and then go return the rental car?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, that rental car return could have been important. In other words, was there a suitcase in there? Was not? Was she or not? And I understand your point about returning first and then returning the rental car, but there would have been those cameras that would have been in that neighborhood, ring cameras, the road cameras, I think that would have detected that. Secondarily, Ashlee, the number one thing I thought of is she actually might have said something to somebody. This is a manipulative, she is looking to make sure she hides her story and to tell somebody, oh, my daughter isn't with me because I left her in Nebraska. I could see her dropping that little hint to somebody, neighbors, or possibly somebody at the rental car company.
So many different scenarios.